Okay. Christina sent us an email earlier today with some recommendations, and I would like to maybe go through them, go over them. I First point, Christina discovered that we have two different provisions regarding contracts and the period that we are keeping them. And I totally agree, Christina. I think we can remove the 0401 out of our schedule of records. That's a duplication.
Yes.
I think the only difference, one was under legal, one was under fiscal, but I won't really make a difference.
Right. Either's fine.
The second thing you mentioned was personal files. We for whatever reason thought that they can be kept, they need to be kept open, but according to you, they do not.
Correct. Board member information has the historical value, but not personnel.
Got it. So maybe when we submit our recommendation, we can go 7 years after termination. Okay. The third bullet point was regarding day reports. There was 0207. And I agree as well. That needs to be removed as we don't utilize McSys any longer. The fourth point was provider fiscal audits, and there was provider fiscal audits, and I'm not sure if there will be policy where we have to add other fiscal.
I see provider fiscal reports. You could.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so maybe you could just add provider fiscal reports and audits, just to clarify. I think that 7 years and after audit sufficient for both of those categories.
Okay. Under the next bullet point, you mentioned about non-Medicaid client service contracts. And again, we discussed it with the staff and we agree we should remove the word non-Medicaid and include all service contracts. Just change the name.
Yes.
The 0208, we talk about Medicaid clients agreements, which again, due to Medicaid elevating in 2012, that is no longer needed. We can remove that one. Under 0119, we talk about provider reports, program and outcomes. But I do agree with you. Maybe we can rename it and have program reports to include all. Because we are providers.
There's so many things they submit to. I thought a catch-all category might be a good idea.
Correct. And then obviously your last bullet point was some items that we should consider adding onto our record retention. The first one was civil commitments, and I think that one should be under fiscal.
Probably more administrative, because we're not talking about the contracts. We're talking about if you get reports from pre-screeners if there's probate documentation, communication from the attorney that does the probates, things of that nature.
Okay. And there can also be, what is the time period recommendation for that, Christina?
That would probably be somewhere in that 7 to 10 range. You always want to get beyond the statute of limitations for anything you could get sued for, but it is nothing that has that permanent or historical value. So somewhere in that 7 to 10 years should suffice.
And I'm assuming we do the same when it comes to forensic monitoring.
Correct.
Under administrative. And then I jumped to one, the HIPAA privacy notice. That is something I believe in our contracts we are making all of our providers do and send to their clients.
Yes.
So it's kind of portion of our contract. So I don't think they might not relate directly to us.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if you would receive any correspondence about HIPAA, that could just go into your executive or general correspondence item. So that's a good point about your notice.
The reports submitted to Ohio Mass, we can maybe keep those. I would say maybe 3 years after the SAR review, which is the Ohio Mass audit that they do usually every 3 years.
That makes sense. Yep.
Okay. 3 years after SAR review. Yes.
3 years after?
Correct.
Do you keep it some additional after that?
3 years after the review, correct. So the most we'll keep it will be 6 years. Claim files, these are our GASH claim files for clients that they might have to go under fiscal and they may mirror our standard of 7 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, the 7 years. And well, would that be part of any of your audits, looking at claims?
Well, they could. They look at our disbursements. Usually they select 30 random payments that we made in a year and they deeply into them, which it could include the claim files.
That's true. Yeah, that would have the claim file in it. So you probably want to do the 7 years and after fiscal and compliance audit. Another way I have seen that phrased, for yours, you'll like 7 years and after fiscal and compliance audit. A way that might be a bit clearer to say it is 7 years provided audited. So instead of, is it 7 years and then the audit, or does the audit happen then the 7 years, just saying 7 years provided they're already audited. Just a suggestion there.
Oh, got it.
I like that.
I like that too.
I think that's how we did that, Commissioner.
Yeah. So as soon as, if I'm audited this year in 2020, I can get rid of all the records prior to 2013.
Correct. And if there was some delay in auditing or there was an additional auditing or whatever, and it gets to 8 years, then you're saying since they hadn't been audited within 7 years, then you have to wait until they're audited at that 8th year mark.
Got it. Okay. And we're probably going to change that for all of them, the language. And then the provider proposal and grants, they'll probably also go under fiscal.
I would agree.
And we'll probably have to do the same thing. Even if some of the proposals might not be funded.
Yeah, and if you don't fund a proposal, and I could double check this, I'm pretty certain they're not considered public record because you did not take any action upon the proposal.
So
I'm pretty certain about that.
should we name it?
Successful proposals.
No, just a funded provider proposal and grants.
That would clarify. Yep.
Incident reports, MUIs, those might go under administrative, and we can. Is there a recommendation for time period for those?
Complaints and grievances, again, just like civil commitments, I think a 7-year or a 10-year, something like that would be sufficient.
Okay.
10 years or something like that, because sometimes you need to go back and look at the history with, if new complaints are continuing to be filed against an agency or what have you. You can look at the history.
Got it. So they will cover the last two bullet points. Now, before we go into the actual policy, I have another question. So, with these recommendations, my plan was to take it in 2 weeks to the program committee, say, hey, we met. These are the recommendations. This is the updated schedule. And if they approve, then I will recommend a motion for them to approve that we submit this to the Ohio Historical Society and Ohio Auditor of State.
Correct.
And let's assume, what can happen is after that, they will approve it or they will want to make some extra recommendations. My question is, if they approve it, things that are not obviously permanent, but can we go ahead and destroy things according to the schedule, or do we need to get additional approval?
So the RC3 is what you use to officially dispose of your records. So anything that's beyond the schedule right now, you have things, that are 5 years old and they only need to be saved for 2 years, say like agendas and meeting minutes, you can go ahead right now and put them on your RC3. You send that in, they make sure there's nothing they want to save for historical value, and then they send you back permission to go ahead and dispose of them.
Okay.
I thought that changed. Does the rules not apply to the mental health board? Because when I was at the commissioner's office, that changed to where you didn't have to ask for permission to dispose of anymore.
Where you didn't have to ask for permission to dispose? I think what the caveat might be is, and it just depends, they may, when they approved your RC2, noted that they wanted you to file an RC3 for certain records. And if they didn't note that, is that in line with what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're right. For a first step in the process, you look and see what they have noted as needing an RC3, and if it needed an RC3, then it gets submitted, and they take another look to see if they really want to keep it or not.
Correct. If that's not noted, we just dispose.
Can you say that one more time?
So so we have item, we'll just say, item 0102 was noted that they want an RC3 in that item. That would be the only item that we would submit to them to ask. Otherwise, we just get rid of them once the time frame is up and we document what we got rid of.
Correct.
That's what I'm used to.
Yeah, good clarification. And some boards have been so long without their records of retention approved, they never went through that where it was noted where there's an RC written. But if you've already went through that where they have told you whether they want an RC3 or not, then you're good.
The last one, 2019, should have went through that process.
And then what you guys mentioned is whatever we destroy, we need to make note of it.
It could be just a simple spreadsheet that we put in our records retention folder on the computer that said January of 21, we got rid of these documents from these years.
Okay.
Correct.
Some people were still filling out the RC3, just not submitting it to the state.
Well, I got it. Understanding now. The last item that I want to talk about is your recommendations regarding the public records policy. And I really like all your bullet points, and we do them and we have them. I just realized that they're not listed on this particular policy. Your bullet points, I think, come as recommendation from the Auditor of State from last year, Bulletin 3, where he wanted all public entities
Yes.
to have this. And we put the forms, we created forms. We already have all this on a website, in the office, and so on. I have the mail in every employee file. But I will agree with you, we can add those 4 bullet points and re-update our public records policy.
It's good even if you're mentioning them in other places and personnel policies about signing documents or what have you. It's good to have it all in one place. Plus, as you know, they're going to start auditing these policies as well. So better just to have all the requirements spelled out in that one policy.
Correct. And we actually just in the middle of that audit, and they asked us for pretty much all those 4 bullet points to show proof.
Gotcha.
Okay. Can I say that for a second? Okay, so in addition to this, my last question, Christina, is, again, we're going to update the policy. We have the forms already created that will be appendixes to this policy. In addition to the one thing that I didn't send out, we also have a policy talking about records retention and disposal, and it's a very old policy. But I think that's really just talking about the Excel document that we went through and say, hey, you got to have this in place.
Right.
But I might just send it over to you as well for some updates.
Okay. Very good.
I don't have anything else to add. Again, our process will be I will take all these recommendations to the program committee, asking them to recommend a motion so we can submit the updated records retention as well as updating the policy.
Sounds good.
Karen, any questions?
No, from what I hear, the only thing was the HIPAA privacy notice. What was your recommendation for that?
Can you please repeat the question one more time?
She's asking what
I was here, well, had a to the RC2. What was the recommendation for the HIPAA privacy notifications and requests?
I think I understand what you are saying. You are breaking up a little bit. The recommendation for the HIPAA is that we currently have that in our contracts with the behavioral health providers, and it's part of our contract as their responsibility. So we are not going to add that to our schedule. Is that correct?
Yes, it sounds like since you are not generating them yourselves, that any inquiries you get about your privacy notice or any authorizations you could put into a general correspondence. You have a line on there for correspondence general, and I think any requests or inquiries you get about your privacy notice or authorizations could go into that general correspondence.
Karen, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much, Christina.
No problem.
Anything else? Okay. Well, this, Christina, this should be according to ORC once a year meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct. It says at least once a year. If you would require an RC3, you might want to have the commission come together to look at it and make sure it's in line with your retention schedule and approve submitting the RC3. But it sounds like that's going to be minimal since they've already went through and chosen what they would like notice of.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Well, perfect. If we don't have anything else further, thank you, Christina. Thank you, Karen, for joining. And we are going to conclude the meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.